Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ricky Parker, and I'm the Executive Director of the Ruth Coles Harris Leadership Institute at Virginia Union University. I would like to welcome you to She Means Business Part 2 virtual workshop in partnership with the Sidney Lewis School of Business and VUU Global. The Ruth Coles Harris Leadership Institute honors Dr. Ruth Coles Harris, the first African American woman to become a certified public accountant in the state of Virginia. She also served as the founding dean for the School of Business at VUU. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment and introduce our panelists. First, I'd like to introduce Toria Malia, founder of North 24th Home. Toria grew up in a little brick house on North 24th Street, where on Saturday mornings meant waking up, pressing play, and top to bottom with her family. Though she grew up home with bleach and common staples, her personal journey towards holistic wellness led her to begin throwing out toxins-filled cleaning products and replacing them with homemade products free of harsh chemicals and pollutants. North 24th is a node to her place she calls home. Next, I would like to introduce Anjali Moon, founder of Africana Independent Film Festival, a space that celebrates, elevates, and further validates Black stories, Black voices, and Black lives. This film festival showcases the cinematic works of people of color from around the world. Um, Anjali and her team place a special focus on the global Black narrative. Their mission is to present a high quality, well-crafted stories that highlight the diaspora and encourage people to connect. Finally, I would like to introduce Ashley Williams, founder of Bare Soul Yoga, a diverse group of individuals that provide authentic, quality professional services as certified yoga teachers, wellness practitioners, interns, and volunteers to make a social impact. Bare Soul Yoga is rooted in love, self-care, and connection, and utilizes the principles and practices of yoga to create a space for healing that centers humanity and welcomes the whole community. I'd like to again welcome our panelists and thank you again for taking the time to join us for this dialogue today.
Thanks for having us.
So as we begin, can you ladies please explain what inspired you to start your businesses?
Well, I can hop in first. So hi, everyone. Again, I'm Toria Malia, founder of North 24th Home. And as Ricky stated during the introduction, a lot of the inspiration for my brand came from the place that I call home. So I grew up on North 24th Street here in Richmond in the Churchill neighborhood specifically. And I have a lot of fond, vivid memories of my childhood. Saturday mornings, waking up, my family putting on some music, and really just spending time together as a family, cleaning, laughing, enjoying one another, really existing in a moment of joy. And, you know, as the pandemic hit, I already, had plans for starting a business. I hadn't quite determined what exactly that business would be. But as I recognized more people are spending time at home, more people are cleaning, I thought to myself, I think I have something that I can introduce. And so really the inspiration was twofold. I wanted to elevate the story of my home, the place that I call home, my family story, but also introduce products into the market that really could change the way that people, specifically Black people, approach cleaning their homes, caring for their space, their sacred space. I think data shows that over 2,000 products currently on the market as it relates to household cleaning products are filled with toxins. And we know that, consistent, constant use of those in our homes has an adverse effect on our health. And so when I think about some of the data and just numbers that are out there as it relates to asthma within our community, cancer, other diseases, I thought, hey, we're at home, we're cleaning more than ever. Here's an opportunity for me to introduce something that, can clean your home without causing harm and offer a bit of joy. And so the fun part of my brand that I always like to share with people that really points back to my childhood and growing up is that, music was really central to cleaning. And so all of the products that I sell come with QR codes that link to cleaning playlists. So it's an opportunity to have an experience to, press play, start cleaning, experience some joy, and take care of yourself in your home.
Awesome. I can hop in. So in terms of inspiration, I'll say that inspiration for Africana came from two spaces. I do not have a background in film per se. I like to say that Africana was it was part of a divine download almost. I feel like it was work that I was led to just through some study and introduction to short films. But the thing that I think really grounded me in it was my work at the Croaker Spot, which happened over the span of about 10 years. And through that work and growing up in an entrepreneurial household, I really came to understand the importance of creating Black autonomous space where we could celebrate ourselves, celebrate our culture, and whether that be the celebration through food, whether it be a celebration through the art on the walls, or whether it be a celebration through cinema. I think the thing that really that inspired me to move forward with Africana in spite of whatever fears I may have had or imposter syndromes is the understanding of the importance of creating the space for Black people to gather and be able to celebrate themselves and see reflections of themselves. And so that has been the inspiration for Africana. It's also been the inspiration for other work that I've gone on to do. And so that's what is at the root of all of the work for me. And I think that in stepping into the space and really seeing the impact that cinema does have, how important it is to be able to tell fuller stories of what it means to be Black throughout the diaspora, and what that means for youth, what that means for adults to be able to see people and stories on screen that they connect to, keeps me inspired and keeps me moving forward. And can I just say, Toria's playlists are awesome, and so are her products, because I use them too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll second that, from the playlist to the products. And so I'm really grateful to even use them in Bare Soul and in my own home. And so I guess I'll go into what really inspired me. It's definitely been an evolution, but I think what inspires me and continues to inspire me daily, with the creation of Bare Soul, or in the realm and the evolution of what wellness and well-being looks like in my life, was first and foremost just kind of my own well-being, and then being of service to others' well-being has been and continues to be my inspiration. So I clearly have Bare Soul Yoga, which has been a space to make the practices of yoga and wellness accessible and approachable, first and foremost to myself, because when I first became into the practice, it was in 2012, 2013, and what self-care and what wellness, physical, mental, and emotional looked like for me was not necessarily, it wasn't actual well-being. And I noticed that I didn't have the resources to really take care of myself in a way that led me to like this overall well person. And so what really inspires me is continuing to like really pour into myself and kind of looking around and noticing, that there's so many people that are still going through different physical situations or physical ailments. We know that there's health disparity in our community, specifically the Black community, and then there's like lack of access to resources, lack of access a lot of times to like education. And I mean that in the sense of the multifacets of our community in general. And so my practice was, I had found this practice to really manage grief and to really manage loss and to really manage anxiety or stress, and also witnessing my family and my friends and women and people that were really close to me dealing with the same things. But also a lot of times our outlet was medication, or not an ability to actually go to a doctor or see, there was a stigma with therapy. And so for me, when I found and I started practicing yoga, it was like this thing that I could do on my own time, and I could empower my own self, and I could tap into my own physical well-being and my mental. And so for me, I felt that was really liberating. And it was something that I wanted to offer or to provide and to educate within my community. And so that became this foundation of service and making sure that this vehicle of wellness was accessible to others. And so that continues to inspire me, especially when hosting classes or when inviting people into conversation about their wellness, or watching my family and my friends um, really empower themselves or create space to take care of themselves, and to see like how that plays a role in their role as a mother or a father or a sister or a brother or a partner or in their business. It's like they've created space um to be their best selves. And so that to me is what really inspires me and continues to invite me into not just creating space for myself to heal, but then to kind of give that space and invite others to do it, whether they're wellness practitioners or professionals. Creating space in the wellness industry for more Black wellness professionals and practitioners to serve as representation, to know that we like really deserve to be well. And it's not like a luxury, really, right? So we view wellness as a luxury many times just in our society, and it's not a luxury. It's actually we say yes, it's a birthright, but it's also just like creating space for us to actually live into our essence as human beings. And so being well to me is like the key to all the things that we do. It's our key to how we operate in our family, how we operate in our environment, our community, how we operate in our work. And so it's definitely a pillar and something that continues to inspire me as people tap into their own wellness.
I think that's so amazing. I just really think about the three of you and like your businesses. I think you all are really creating space for products, I think experiences that you feel need to exist. And one thing I want to really do before we kind of move on, Anjali, can you really share more, or you really haven't shared anything yet? Can you share something about the Jackson Project? I know you spoke about Africana, but I know the Jackson Project is new venture you recently started. You know, you're a serial entrepreneur, and I just definitely want to give you room to kind of talk about that.
Well, sure. I'm happy to talk about the Jackson Project. So the Jackson Project is actually a partnership between myself and my sister, Dr. Sisha Moon, and it is essentially a research project rooted in the origin story of Jackson Ward. It is something that, again, was kind of led to us. It was birthed out of Africana's festival last year. We, like everywhere else, had to pivot to virtual, but I still wanted to figure out ways to show up in communities. So I was planning to do projections on different buildings in different neighborhoods throughout the city. Reached out to Sisha and was like, listen, I want to do 10 Black facts to be associated with each neighborhood. She's a researcher by trade. You know, this would be light work for her. And so she said, sure. And when she got to Jackson Ward, she was like, I don't think I know who the Jackson Ward is. And so I share who I always knew it to be through my time at Croker Spot, which was Giles B. Jackson. But upon additional research, they kind of it ended up taking us down a bit of a Pandora's box in terms of who it is actually named after, where the naming convention came from, and then even more interestingly enough, why the ward was birthed in the first place. And so you come to learn that in 1871, it was actually created as a gerrymandered district to suppress the Black vote and to suppress Black political and economic power. Because of the level of autonomy and strength the area had amassed pre-emancipation through dynamics like urban enslavement and just the mixture of freed and enslaved Black people who lived in that area. And so we are just dedicated to learning more about Jackson Ward, the people of Jackson Ward, and the shoulders that we stand on, even before people that we may know of and continue to celebrate, like a Maggie Walker and John Mitchell Jr., who we should continue to give them their flowers, but understanding that they too are standing on shoulders. And so what does it look like to delve a little bit deeper into the history of this space? And it's quite fascinating, and it really does position Richmond quite interestingly within the Black American narrative. We all kind of understand the importance of Richmond in that way, but I think this allows us to have an even clearer lens on what that looks like and what that means. And so we're excited about that. We just celebrated the 150th anniversary as well of Jackson Ward 2 weeks ago on the 17th. One of the pieces of information that we found was that the ward was established on April 17th, 1871. And so we came across that information just in time enough to pull together a celebration of the 150th anniversary, which was really quite beautiful. So, a little snapshot.
Definitely congratulations with that. I know also like a page in Richmond Times basketball, just everything about it. So just really just excited for you and all the work you're doing. I guess it's kind of piggybacking off of that. How does a city like Richmond achieve racial equity through entrepreneurship?
I mean, I can offer my thoughts there. I think that, when we think about structures, we're in a time when we're talking about and actually contributing actions towards this idea of dismantling systemic racism and structures that aren't of service to the whole. But when we look historically at those structures and those systems, oftentimes you'll find yourself coming back to Virginia and this Richmond region as a space that began to build those structures and fortify those systems. And so the idea of dismantling them from here makes a great deal of sense to me. And I think part of the ways that we do that is through economic empowerment, especially, of our communities. I think entrepreneurship is important because it allows a certain level of, again, autonomy, which is key for an underrepresented, often suppressed people or oppressed people in this country. And so finding ways where we can find pathways to freedom through different lenses on our own, I think is critical. It also allows us an opportunity to redefine the way in which we engage with capitalism, which traditionally has not been our friend, right? And so how is it that we can take this concept of entrepreneurship or doing for self and craft it into something that can be of service of the self and the collective, which capitalism often is not. And so I think us as Black people stepping into the entrepreneurial space, and this is not to say that everyone has to be an entrepreneur, right? But how can you support the entrepreneur? Even the support of the entrepreneur pours into that system and these new structures that we're looking to create. And so I think us starting that here in Richmond and allowing this to be kind of like a ground zero and reverbing out, I think can have tremendous impact over time. So yeah, that's
Yeah, and just to kind of layer into what Anjali shared, I think it really is important to, one, spend time understanding what success looks like for Black entrepreneurs, because we know that it is not always fitting into the cookie cutter box of what we might think of as success within a capitalistic society. And so when there are organizations or entities that are creating programs to support entrepreneurs, specifically Black entrepreneurs, it is important that they are working backwards from understanding what success even looks like. As I think about my business, which is still fairly new, I'm not interested in growing it to make billions. I'm really more so focused on how do I drive impact in my community as it relates to health? How do I shift the thinking of what products we bring into our homes to clean our space? And so I think it really is important to, one, listen and understand and not try to push all entrepreneurs into programming or supports that lead to one definition of success.
And in my world, one thing that I've found like really beneficial is really just the redistribution of resources. So following up with what they've already said, like Richmond is this space of where our economic infrastructure really began. And so me in this world of like energetics and but also like actual structural foundation, um I like this is the space where not only does mindset need to change of who deserves resources, how they're actually given out, we need to kind of dismantle what's already in place in a way by looking at kind of what is the community need, who has the resources, what roles do individuals play, what roles do certain businesses play, especially businesses that are even offering up funding from our financial institutions to our government agencies, and how are they supporting the distribution of resources. When I think about my business and um, just its history is, I started out working one-to-one and just going into certain institutions. I went into a brick and mortar, and I went into a brick and mortar because I knew it's what my community needed at the time, because there wasn't another Black owned wellness space in the city of Richmond at that time, or Black owned yoga studio at that time. And when I opened it, I realized that, I kind of put in most of the finances on my own, or I relied on the finances from my father and from my family. And so it was really an effort of, I want to be of service to have to meet this need. And the shift from that was then being community based. And when I was community based, I was going in and partnering with institutions that had financial resources to support the services being offered into the community. When I look at my counterparts who have yoga studios in the city of Richmond, many of them being and having identities of privilege, they were offered loans and grants and things like that to really help support the foundation of their infrastructure. And so just we sit down and we talk about how our businesses were started and where they are, and then what resources we had, and really noticing the difference. So I really believe that if we can really sit down from an individual level, from an institutional level, from a community level, to see where resources are placed and what's the way that we can actually make them accessible, especially accessible to organizations that are really serving community and social impact in a way that's putting service and community first, and that it's people centered, and knowing that that's going to really drive profit if that's what we're looking for in this success funnel. So definitely economic freedom by redistributing resources.
Okay. I really, your responses for all of you really have me thinking. Um, and it's very enlightening. I think the information you're sharing. Can each of you kind of share a little bit more, I guess, on what challenges you faced within entrepreneurship since starting your businesses?
Mm. Well, I immediately want to piggyback off of what Ashley was just talking about in terms of access. We spoke a little bit earlier about the importance of Black entrepreneurship and this idea of supporting one another and feeding into the collective. And I can say that for Africana, if it wasn't for a Black entrepreneur, I don't know that it would be. It is Croker Spot and their belief in what I was saying, and this vision that I had, and saying, well, we'll support you. Because I'm like, I have no money. I don't even know where to go to ask for money. And for them to say, without batting an eye, tell me what you need and we have you. If it wasn't for that, I don't know where Africana would be, because this idea of accessibility to funds, even 7 years in, and Africana is fairly celebrated. We won awards and we get written about and all of that. And we do have access to some funds. We've gained increasing access. But when I think about my counterparts, when I think about other festivals that happen in the city, when I think about other pop-up events, and even ones rooted in culture, even if not Black culture, but arts and culture, we are getting but a fraction of the money that's being put out into the ecosystem here in Richmond. And so, if I had to speak of a challenge, part of that challenge is rooted in equity and accessibility. Because even as you grow, you gain more access, but is your access equitable to the access that other people have? And so I find that now has become the new challenge. Before I didn't know, then it was like, well, how do you get your foot in the door? Now your foot is in the door. How do you now gain equal footing to some of the people who are already in the room? And so, I think part of it is a process, but I think also a part of it is, we have gatekeepers in certain spaces that decide how much you should get and when you should get it, if you're deserving, if this vision should be uh, funded in the same way, let's say a folk festival or a 2 Street, right? Like things coming through certain spaces, and these are all worthy. They all deserve that funding. But what I find is that there is a Black creative community that is holding a vision for things equally as large. But the thing that stops it is not community support, because we see like people on the ground supporting, but it's how can you scale up? And the thing that you need to scale up is access to funds. And so what I hope through the work that I'm doing with Africana, even through Give Black Richmond, creating a space for community-focused organizations to simply have a hub where they can put their information and allow funders to find them and support them, is to help at least a little bit in breaking down some of those barriers that exist. And so, as Taroya was saying earlier, when we think about concepts of success, for me, the success isn't necessarily in how much money you get. It's just in the accessibility to get the funds that you need to fulfill the vision that you have. And that's what I want to see for, yes, myself, but also for other Black creatives in this area. So yeah, definitely the challenge is rooted in access and equity.
+1 to everything that Anjali shared. I just was looking at some data points that I had marked down, and on average, startup capital for Black entrepreneurs is right around 35,000 in comparison to 106,000 for our white counterparts. So when you think about starting up a business, even discussions of scale, we're already starting, on different footing. And similarly, like when I decided that I wanted to start North 24th Home, I knew that I would likely need to look at resources that I already had. So looking at what do I have in my savings, what can I tap into, family and friends, and other supports to make this thing happen. And so I do think access is one of the greatest challenges. I think along with that, it really is, and I go back to this kind of similar to my last answer, like also having people listen to us, because there are constantly new things emerging in the space of small business support, small business development, but oftentimes miss the mark because they're not taking the time to listen and learn from those that they are hoping to impact or influence. So I think certainly access to financial resources is a challenge. I think just elevation of our voice within the entire ecosystem. And then I guess I'll speak to a more tactical challenge I had. So I shared earlier that I started my business during the pandemic, and I mean, I decided to take the risk, but with a product-based business, I am tapping into different vendors to supply my packaging and different things. And that was a challenge within itself, with disruptions within the supply chain. I may order 10,000 jars, and true story, I ordered some packaging back in August 2020, just received it 2 weeks ago. So it has also required me to do a lot of pre-planning, a lot of pivoting, a lot of just getting real innovative about how I still make this happen. and despite any challenges that arrive.
Access is definitely, I could continue to speak on that too, from access to financial resources as an organization that, really moves forward in social impact. And so this year I finally, like, we have a nonprofit leg now because it would open up more spaces for like funding to come in, but then we also are still operating as a nonprofit. And so, but I found that that was something that was a challenge over the past couple of years with us doing a lot of community work and offering lower costing classes or trying to make it accessible for not just people, but organizations and people in our community to attend. We were trying to make and create an equitable space, but there wasn't actually always funding to really support that. And so, as an organization that was operating in this way, one thing that I knew that I needed was another thing or maybe product to even support that. And we weren't getting it we weren't able to apply for grant funding and things like that. So that had been a challenge in the past. But I will say, speaking of access and then also just in the field in which of wellness, one thing for me that had been a challenge is as I grew as a business, it was me solely operating as a teacher or the lead wellness teacher or lead yoga teacher. And what I found is if I wanted to actually increase and scale up, I needed more people that were in the yoga space. And I didn't have that in Richmond, or we didn't really we don't have a large pool of wellness practitioners, specifically Black wellness practitioners and professionals in the field of yoga and like wellness and meditation. And so the challenge there was trying to find a way or put a structure in place that offered training or at least offered access to training. So there were more people that were able to serve and be upon the team and offer programming, especially from a space of increasing representation. So it's like there's a lot of people in Richmond that are yoga teachers, but if my mission is to be a representation in the Black community and serve in spaces that were serving both youth and adults, then I needed more people. And so trying to find ways and open up accessibility for people to go to different trainings if they had an interest in it. And so it was somewhat like not necessarily workforce development, but finding opportunities for other people to become educated in the field so then they could then become a part of it. And so I think that also speaks to kind of like the inaccessibility to certain trainings and educations and programs when it comes to gaining skills to actually be a part or go into a field. I personally see a lack of access, especially in the wellness field. Like if we look at mainstream wellness fields, like wellness looks one way. And so right now, I think we're in a shift of diversifying, not just what a wellness practitioner or professional looks like, but then, but also how we even redefine wellness. Like, how do we define that? And then how do we make that and educate on what wellness actually is, like what well-being and overall physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, community wellness really looks like. So education and access to that has been something that I've seen as a challenge, especially in the bare soul space. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And something I'd like to commend all of you on is the fact that I love the fact that like really focused on community first. I know a lot of times within entrepreneurship, you can be so focused on just making a profit where you're not really focused on your base. And something else it seems like the three of you have mastered or are working your way through is just really working through your challenges. I know even the whole idea of access a lot of times can be something that can deteriorate or just make somebody feel like I don't want to pursue this or I can't do it because I don't have the means. But even in it, I think you all kind of discussed how you've been able to work through it or even figure out how you define, success for yourself. Individually, I've been able to, watch each of you, really scale your businesses. Even Tori, from like the year of even the COVID, I've seen like just the growth there, or even Ashley, you were Bare Soul, just going from different places, actually having your brick and mortar, to even Anjali, all the amazing things you're doing with Africana, where the growth is there, but I think you all figured out a way to kind of how to define your success and understanding what I'm doing now is going to get me to this next point. Once I get to this next point, I know what I need to get, to this next level where it's kind of really pacing yourself. And I think that's so important in entrepreneurship as well as business. For my final question today, I really want to ask you, what advice do you have for someone who aspires to launch a business but doesn't know where to start?
I would definitely start by saying tap into the collective. You know, I am here and able to do the things that I've been able to do as a result of the people around me who have poured into me, specifically Black women. And I think it was Ashley who I was talking about, and she was just like, I found it so beautiful how you have like this organic support for North 24th Home. When I put it out there in the world, we were selling out nonstop. And, it feels really good to have an offering that you put into the world, people receive it, but it's not lost on me that is because there is a sense of collective community in which I'm going to support you. We're going to support one another. And so that's not only in buying products or supporting the direct business, but when I have questions about, hey, this is a challenge that I'm experiencing as a business owner, being willing to pour that knowledge and wisdom back into the collective. So I would say, form a strong community around you of other entrepreneurs, other stakeholders in the space who you can look to for support, guidance, coaching, mentorship, just a shoulder to cry on or someone to laugh with in moments of success and joy. And I think that is so key because I know that I would not be able to do this without the people who are around me, who are impacting and supporting the business, both formally and informally. And tap into the other collective, the Jackson Ward Collective as well.
I think that what she's saying is so solid. I think that when you can tap into the folks around you, a lot of times we try to like go lateral or go upward, right? But sometimes it's when you stretch across, right, that you find the greatest pool of resources and people willing to support you and also share what it is that they know. So, I think, in addition to, yes, aspiring upward, aspire outward and tap into the people who indeed are a part of your circle. And yes, formal collectives like the Jackson Ward Collective. And Toria also represents a space like Capital One, an innovation center. We find that in Richmond now, there are spaces cropping up throughout the city that are designed to help entrepreneurs. Are they necessarily specifically speaking to Black entrepreneurs? Maybe not. But one of the things that we have to do is sometimes you have to force inclusivity, right? You have to force people to see you. And so as we continue to do our research as entrepreneurs and people who are starting these organizations, sometimes the onus is on us to do the research. And then once you do the research, then you have to take the step. And so indeed, a piece of my advice in addition to tapping into the collective will be to do the research and then to do the work, right? Step out there. It can be daunting. It can be intimidating. Finding a way to move in spite of that. I'm not going to say you shouldn't be scared. I'm going to say move in spite of the fear. And I have found, because I was scared stepping out with Africana, I thought everyone was going to tell me no. And a few people did, but I didn't let the no's stop me. And then the yeses came. And when one yes came and it built the confidence, I found that more yeses came. And so I just say, keep pushing. If it's something that you truly believe in, and if you know that the vision will be of service to your spirit and to the larger collective, I say keep pushing. and nothing else, and tap into that collective around you for more inspiration and strength and faith.
So I second and I third and fourth everything. I was really gonna say just do it, right? Like it's literally we each have this I truly believe that we each have this like divine gift that and like this purpose. And so the moment that a vision comes and that moment of clarity and it feels like, oh, this is right. um if people are telling you that you're organically naturally good at something, and it doesn't even seem like something you might even do, but you realize you're naturally organically good at it, or it's an interest, I don't know what it is, but whatever vision it is, whatever thing that you want to start, I say just do it, because there's something behind the just doing it and that step. And it could be that business, it could be a project, it could be something that's going to shift, but I'm sure that it's going to lead to something. And then beyond that, the collective, stepping into relationship. I feel like relationships are key to our own success. And once again, when I say success, I mean they're just key to our livelihood. And in the business sector, there's so much that we can learn from other people. And the most success that I've had, just in my own development, is the moments when I'm in deep relationship with other people, whether they're other women in my life or women entrepreneurs, whether they're people in general, teachers in the wellness field, other business owners outside of the field, if it's somebody in my family, my little cousins who sell stuff, like relationship in general, I think is key. And so when you step out into just doing the thing that feels like your calling, lean into relationship. And for me, I'm going to say lean into the support that relationships also have to offer you, because it's there. And it could be emotional support, which you need as an entrepreneur, right? Like you need that. It could be financial support, it could be spiritual support, it could be physical support, because when entrepreneurship gets hard, or when you get really in deep to it, we don't take care of our physical body, right? And self-care and sleep, and we think we need to like run, but we actually have this opportunity to be in business in this very healthy way, and this, and keep and maintain a good relationship with ourselves and everybody that's around us, especially if it's our calling. So the moment that it feels like too much of like resistance is there, we always have to notice why the resistance is there, right? Are we doing something that we're supposed to do, or are we doing something that we think that we should be doing? So I think always going in and leaning into relationship, in our own relationship with ourselves, it has been key, and will be key when you launch a business, especially if it's something that is supposed to be sustainable and there for the long term.
Well, Ashley, Toria, Anjali, I definitely want to say thank you. You three ladies are truly an inspiration. Just today, just hearing you share your insight and your knowledge, it's definitely, I know, been eye-opening for me, and I know even everyone watching, I know they're able to probably leave away with something new they learned, or even some gems that they can kind of put into action. So I want to thank the three of you again for just making yourselves available and being willing to participate. And I just want to thank everyone for watching. And this concludes our workshop for today, but definitely stay tuned for more amazing things from Virginia Union University. And this concludes our day. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.